Today is Monday, June 14th, and this is Headers and Footers, the brand new UEFA Euro 2020 show by the Toronto Star. I'm your host, Brendan Dunlop. Sunday, we got maybe the most exciting match of the tournament. Monday, we saw maybe, just maybe, the best goal of the tournament in the first match of the day, Czech Republic against Scotland. Patrik Schick. Looks like he likes a close shave, doesn't he? And he loves to take chances from distances that few guys would ever attempt, even in training. That goal against Scotland, the longest goal ever scored at a European Championship. He was 45.5 meters away from goal when he took that crack. What a shot it was. It was a heartbreaking way for Scotland to return to the big stage. Their first time at an international tournament since the World Cup in France in 1998. But it was so special to see the Tartan Army back. What a fan base. What a country. They sure do love their football. And really, to lose that way, it's not the worst result in the world. Obviously, Friday will be difficult to go down to Wembley and take on England. And of course, any Scots that work with English people, they won't want to jump on the Zoom call or head into the office if the result doesn't go their way. But really, opening with a loss in the fashion that they did, Patrik Schick just took over that match, and he was probably unfortunate not to have had a hat trick. Spain and Sweden gave us the first goalless draw of Euro 2020. The first one that Spain's been involved in the group stage at the Euros since 1980, believe it or not. But those 90 minutes were far from boring. That was a good game. And both sides had chances to win it in Seville. Spain, I think, will feel much worse having walked away with the draw. There have been 24 goals at Euro 2020 so far, 18 of which have come in the second half. I still don't understand how we didn't see a goal in the second half between Spain and Sweden. We've seen two own goals at Euro 2020 so far, both scored by Juventus players. Demiral in Turkey's opener against Italy in the loss on Friday. And as of today, Wojciech Szczesny holds the unwanted title of being the first goalkeeper to ever score an own goal at the Euros. I mean, it really was a nightmare start for Poland, wasn't it? They came into this tournament with some real doubts, and you could see why. Slovakia absolutely took Robert Lewandowski out of this match, and Poland were unable to find any way to really get him involved, and they're going to have to. A quick tying goal to start the second half gave Poland a lot of hope, and then Gregor Krychowiak totally blew that up by picking up his second yellow card and being sent off. Slovakia were the bookies' favorites to finish last in this group, and after match day one, Slovakia sit on top of Group E. My guest on today's show is Joe Callaghan from the Toronto Star. You've read him in the paper, and now you can hear him on Headers and Footers, wax poetically about nations that are not Ireland. Although I've got a feeling that we'll find a way to bring that up.
I mean, I'm wearing green. That's half the battle, right?
Fitting. Great setup that you got. Let's start with Spain before we get to Scotland. Yeah. This is a team in transition, a team with a lot of anticipation, a team that people still compare to the title-winning sides of 10 years ago. They're not that side anymore. Aymeric Laporte is brand new to the squad in the center of defense after changing allegiances from France. There's not a single Real Madrid player in there. Pedri is the first ever 18-year-old they've rolled out at a European Championships. They looked like a good side. I mean, they still control 100% of the possession nearly, as we saw. But they're not the lethal and deadly side that I think a lot of people still want to put the tag on. And if it was for some good finishing from Sweden, we'd be talking about a different result here in a Spanish loss to open Euro 2020.
Yeah, like that's the thing, Brendan. If it was for some good finishing, but also if it was some maybe ballsier, stronger managing, the substitution, the withdrawal of Alexander Isak with a half hour to go was basically like Sweden going, okay, we're done. We're not going to win the game. Let's see if you can kind of get past us. And I think that's probably the worst indictment to Spain is they had a half hour where Sweden were like, all right, like we've gone a little bit over and back. Now just come at us for a half hour. And look, it's something that Spain, like you said, it's a decade now, you know, that since they were winning these things with panache and with a cutting edge. There would sometimes be Spain games where you'd kind of be waiting for a goal. But if you think back to kind of the first tournament where reality checked, was kind of Brazil 2014. And that was the end for Fernando Torres, and that was the end for David Villa. And honestly, I don't think that Spain have come close to replacing either of those guys. And that's why, you know, we spoke in a pre-tournament chat on Twitter about Alvaro Morata. And, you know, you look at Spain, that Spain of David Villa and Torres, you always fancied, even when Torres was out of form, you fancied that they'd get on the end of something and make something happen. since then, Spain went to Euro 2016. I think their top scorer was David Villa. They went to the World Cup in 2018 and it was still David Villa. And they've come here. Their top scorer is Alvaro Morata, but like that chance in the first half kind of summed it up. It wasn't just that he missed it; he dragged it nearly a full on that second replay from behind. He dragged it nearly a full, and he's through 1-on-1 with Robin Olsen, and he drags it nearly a full, or pushes it nearly a full kind of 2 yards wide, 1.5 yards. So goals are definitely going to be an issue. And yeah, you just wonder about Luis Enrique. I know he brought on Gerard Moreno with kind of a half hour to go. Like, could he end up kind of stuck between kind of two stools here, where he's not ready to show his faith fully in Moreno, but equally, if Morata is serving up more of that, he kind of can't stick with him, you know?
I think Moreno, who was phenomenal for Villarreal in their Europa League winning campaign, will be the man going forward. How long Spain's involved in this tournament for him to be featured and him to be starting, I'm not sure. But I mean, Morata should have finished that chance that he had in the first half there. And as you mentioned, and I tweeted, David Villa, Torres, Raul, those guys would have finished that, and Morata didn't do that. So I think that Spain will walk away from this match and be upset with themselves for not having taken advantage in the final half an hour there, let's say. But at the same time, you know, Sweden, good on them. And I want to see Alexander Isak again. I watched him a bit with Real Sociedad during the La Liga season, but I want to see him on this international stage because he's up for it.
Yeah, like, look, this is the thing with Sweden. They're usually kind of quite reliable, but he gives them something that's almost kind of un-Swedish. And, you know, we kind of said, oh, Zlatan's going to be back. And then he wasn't. And, you know, Zlatan is the ultimate maverick for all his other kind of down points, you know. And Isaac does have that about him. Like the one he put on play for Marcus Berg, my God, you know. But it is kind of that thing. Is he kind of there on his own? Sweden are a remarkably old, experienced team. Like, I think something like 13 of the 26 are over the age of 30. I mean, like, Sebastian Larsson was this is kind of, he's been at every tournament since France 1938. Like, it just is insane, you know. But yeah, I really liked him, and I really liked the look of him and the way he went about it. And given the earlier game in that group and some of the kind of deficiencies we saw on both sides there, you'd fancy that kind of by the end of the group, if things go the right way, he should have at least a couple of goals in into his account, you know.
Well, before we get to Poland and Slovakia, I want to ask you about Scotland, because you made reference there, 1938 being the last time that we'd seen them. 1998 would feel like 1938 for Tartan Army supporters, but France 98, the last time we've seen Scotland at a major tournament. You could see the anticipation. You could feel it in the stands. I mean, 12,000 fans at Hampden Park. It sounded like 100,000 when they were singing Flower of Scotland. It was incredible to watch. But did the occasion get to the players?
You know, to be honest, Brendan, you're saying you can feel it. I kind of felt it, right? And I'm Irish through and through. I lived in Glasgow for 6 months, actually, before moving to Canada. And I have a lot of friends in Scotland. The one that I was helping out today, he got a ticket for the game, and then the ticket fell through. We ended up watching in Glasgow. But I was feeling it for them. And, you know, it's just kind of a Celtic cousin thing. So 23 years is an awful long time. You know, it's a hugely long time. And so you're kind of thinking they won't kind of rise to the occasion. The thing is, they did. They rose to the occasion in so many ways. Your boy John McGinn, like probably front and center, right? Yeah. Like, he was just at his kind of scheming best. Like, I've always loved the kind of idea of a schemer. You can't really identify exactly what it is, but it's someone who's always looking for a bit of trouble, a bit of box to box. Like, they created enough chances. Scotland hit the bar. I think the amount of saves, like the amount of shots on target, because this is a team that has struggled for goals, right? And so one thing I would say is that obviously now, having lost, they're kind of in a real must-win situation against England. For me, Shea Adams has to start. He was so good second half. I've got a soft spot for Celtic, and I like what Ryan Christie has done over the last few years, how he's raised his game. But just Shea Adams, like, when you're a team like Scotland that struggled so badly for goals, and you get to bring in a guy like Shea Adams, he's got 2 goals and 4 caps. Himself and Lyndon Dykes look like they're kind of creating something together. Yes. It was a pity that the two of them didn't start up to front together.
Yeah, Dykes is a player who's scored a lot of goals at QPR, but I think there's too much reliance on Andy Robertson and John McGinn to create. I mean, John McGinn can score. When he is on the score sheet, it's often a highlight reel goal that you want to watch for 24 hours. But he isn't on the score sheet actually that often. So I think that they were waiting for the Czech to open up. But historically, we've seen that the Czechs just kind of sit back and wait. And I do wonder if Patrik Schick was watching David Marshall, the Scottish goalkeeper, off his line a bit and thought, if I get a chance to hit this from halfway, I'm just going to do it. And then sure enough, it fell to him. And he gave us a real
Yeah, it was kind of the most un-Czech moment. Like if you think
right?
of kind of Czech Republic, we think of strong, sturdy, reliable, a little bit kind of too pragmatic. Pragmatic
Hmm.
before international football got so pragmatic, and yet it, it's that I tweeted about it, but that one view from it must be a drone rather than say a helicopter. And I don't think that at Hampden they have the cameras on the wires, so it must have been a drone. But there's that view from overhead that just really encapsulates kind of how the bend and the swerve on the ball. Look, I think we've seen the screen grabs where just as the ball breaks at the edge of the Scotland box, or at the edge of the Czech Republic box, should I say, David Marshall is almost in the Czech half, right? Like he's not just off his line or towards the halfway line, like he's almost at the center circle. And look, the execution was fantastic. It reminded me, not to go back to my homeland, Canada is now my homeland, but a great Irish sports writer who's since passed away from the 1970s, Con Houlihan. And he came out with a line a little bit more of the 1970s, but about Paddy Cullen, who was the goalkeeper for Dublin, who got lobbed quite infamously. And he said, suddenly Paddy dashed back towards the goal like a housewife who smelled a cake burning. And that's kind of, like David Marshall almost had just that kind of panicky sprint, you know? Like
Yeah.
he's running, but he's running almost in a kind of horror movie style. Like he knows this is not going to end well, you know?
Well, he had to be a bit panicked for much of the match he was because he kept getting peppered. You know, I know that he was the playoff qualifying hero, but they just left him too much work to do. And to be honest, Scotland are lucky that the scoreline was only as big as it was at 2-0 because alone Patrik Schick I thought was going to get a hat trick.
Yeah, I think both keepers. I think like we've kind of seen a few pretty good performances from less than heralded keepers, and it's almost kind of a sub piece in itself. As a journalist, you're always kind of thinking this way. Seeing De Gea sitting on the bench for Spain now, for instance, it's kind of like there is even Robin Olsen, who's traditionally been a sub in the Premier League when he was at Everton, had quite a good game for Sweden today too. Mm-hmm. There's some unheralded goalies who are doing some good things, but yeah, Marshall was under a hell of a lot of pressure. I thought he made some good saves, but unfortunately, what is he, 38 now? His entire 18, 20-year career. I remember when he made his debut for Celtic at the Camp Nou way back in Ronaldinho's Barca years. And unfortunately, his career now is just going to be pretty much remembered for being the man that was lobbed for that goal.
Well, Newcastle's goalkeeper, Martin Dubravka, played well for Slovakia. Their big name stepped up. Milan Skriniar, a Scudetto winner, he scored the goal. Did you want to get a quick thought in on Slovakia and Poland?
Well, I guess, again, to go back a little bit to the chat that myself, yourself, and Laura Armstrong from the Star had on the eve of the tournament, we kind of all said, oh, yeah, Poland could do okay in this group, but so much will be down to Lewandowski and how much service he'll get and how much space he'll get. And the thing is that we alluded to then, and it just becomes more clear with the lack of talent around the rest of the team, if you can suffocate Lewandowski and if you can kind of cut off a little bit of the supply to him, as much as talented as he is, and I think he's probably going to be a Ballon d'Or winner, right, this year, that you're really going to suffocate Poland. And that's kind of what was a disappointing thing. I know they were down to 10 men, but yeah, look, Slovakia came through the playoffs, through the Nations League, and they would not have been expected to do much in this group. I guess the one thing, if we kind of take a step back from both those games, Spain-Sweden was very exciting as a 0-0. But, as we look forward to the group of death tomorrow, and that'll be we'll have gone a full round through the tournament. Yes. I'm not sure if this group of Spain, Sweden, Slovakia, Poland has a kind of a hell of a lot for us to kind of worry for other teams to worry about.
Canada, Haiti tomorrow night. That's the real big game on Tuesday. It's Canada taking on Haiti to get through to the Oct. Do they do it?
I think they will. I think they will do it. I was talking about torn allegiances with Scotland, etc. My amazing partner is Haitian Canadian, so there are torn allegiances even in this house too. Her uncles who live back in Port-au-Prince are kind of texting, and they're just all football mad. But nonetheless, there's just something which hasn't been there for Canada for a while, which is kind of a sense of reliability, a bit of sturdiness. Like I think keeping the clean sheet out there was kind of huge. I think having gone out there and secured a kind of 1-0 win to now bring it back and just finish the job, it's just almost like a rite of passage. It's like that's the step they need to be making, and they need to be making it now.
We're watching world-class players every afternoon at the Euros, and there's a few world-class players, or at least becoming world-class players in the Canadian men's national team, which is very exciting. Love chatting footy with you. We'll do it again soon, Joe.
Definitely. Cheers, Brendan. Good chat.
We get our first look at the group of death on Tuesday with just 2 matches. There's no 9 a.m. kickoff, so take advantage of the sleep. I know that I will. France v. Germany, that's the headliner. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff. It should be one of the best matches of the tournament. The French are world champions. Yes, seems like everyone has picked them to do what they couldn't do 5 years ago at home. We haven't seen them play yet, but we've been talking about them a lot. They are writing headlines with ease. Infighting, historically a real French problem at major tournaments. The daily headlines that superstar Kylian Mbappe is not getting on with Olivier Giroud and other veteran players in that change room. I have a very hard time believing that France will be at Wembley on July 11th to play in the final. I just can't see it. They're starting the tournament with so much uncertainty. Who knows? They could go out and clock Germany in the opener, and you can laugh at me. But I think the pressure's on France in this big tie and not so much on the Germans. That does not fare well for the French. Defending champions Portugal enjoyed an extra year with that crown. They have a much stronger side than the one that won it 5 years ago in Paris at Euro 2016. This is not Cristiano Ronaldo with 10 other dudes around him. Although he's still going to get all the attention, and rightly so. He was the Italian Serie A's top goal scorer, potting 29 goals for Juventus this season. Will he be wearing a Juventus shirt after this tournament? Well, it doesn't look like it. And he was asked about all the transfer speculation. Ronaldo said, "I've been playing at the highest level for many years. This doesn't faze me. Maybe if I was 18 or 19, I might have had some sleepless nights, but I'm 36. Whatever comes will be for the best." Sounds like he's leaving. I'd love to see him return to Manchester United, but that's just me. A win over Hungary in a full stadium in Budapest is the only acceptable start for the Seleção. Thanks to Joe Callaghan for joining me. Follow him on Twitter, Joe Callaghan84, and read more of his stories in the Toronto Star. On tomorrow's show, I'll chat with American writer and author Grant Wahl. Remember, you can watch Headers and Footers on YouTube every single match night and download and listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. Until tomorrow, thanks for kicking it with me.